The purpose of this video is to explain and demo the TLS SSL deployment procedure for the config tool. Since the tool is now web-based, we'll want to access it over HTTPS and restrict HTTP. Whereas securing communications between AAI and the connector framework was fairly complex, this by contrast is extremely easy. It requires the implementation of TLS SSL for the WebSwing app server, meaning generating a key store, and certificate, setting the proper format, and then changing two configuration files. First, we have to generate a key, certificate, key store, and trust store. This involves a single key store file and the use of the Java Key Tool utility. Then we'll be able to reference the file in the two WebSwing configuration files. The command is as follows. From the Java bin directory, we execute the key tool commands. Options are -gen_key to generate the key, -alias to assign an alias, and that can be anything you want. We'll use AAI server. -keyalg for the algorithm, and we use RSA. -keystore to indicate the name and location of the keystore file, which is also the trust store. In our case, we're not specifying a directory, which means that the file is generated in the same Java bin location. We'll move it later. -ext indicates the fully qualified domain name, DNS hostname, domain, and IP address. Since we're working on a local system with no domain, just the hostname or IP address will do. Finally, -validity to specify a number of days. We'll use 10 years. We'll be prompted for a password twice. By default, the key tool functionality requires roots. We simply enter the command from the Java bin directory as it was written out in the presentation slide. We'll be prompted for the key store password, which we have to enter twice. If you're familiar with these procedures, you'll know that you're prompted for several items, although in our case, they're not a requirement. For first and last name, we're using the AAI hostname out of habit, since this is standard practice when deploying TLS for AAI, although it's not required here. The same goes for the other fields. You can use anything you want, or simply enter to leave those empty. You have to confirm by typing yes. You have to provide a password for the key. If you type enter, then the password is the same as that of the key store. Your key store has a format which is currently specific to Java. You should convert it to a standard format using an import procedure. This guarantees interoperability. We do this next. In this next step, we use the key tool import key store option with source and destination and the same file name. Then we specify the standard type, PKCS12. This simply converts the key store to the PKCS12 standard formats. The file is still in Java bin, so we copy it or move it to the config directory of AAI. We execute the command. Since the key store is being modified, we're prompted for the passwords. We move the file to the config directory. The file is there. Let's make sure that it's owned by the AAI administrator, not root, so that we can retain control over the file if needed. You should conceal or obfuscate the passwords. For this, we have to download the Jetty utility, which is available from the Maven repository. We recommend version 9.418 since we support that. This may not be the case for more recent versions. We've provided the URL to the repository. Then we obfuscate the passwords. We use the java-cp command with the utility. This does not affect the key store at all. It's only a way to conceal the passwords. It produces a string of characters that start with obf:. We recommend writing this down since we'll need it later. We're on the Jetty utility page of the Maven repository. We download this version. We grab the jar file. The utility has been downloaded to our Downloads folder. We can close the web page. Let's execute the java-cp command with the utility. This is your obfuscated passwords. Copy the complete string in a text file. You'll need it later. We have to configure two WebSwing files and provide some information. The first is Jetty properties found under config. We disable HTTP, enable HTTPS if it isn't already done, and set the new port, which should also be done. The default is 8488, and unless you have a valid reason, there's no need to change it. Then there's a set of lines for the name of KeyStore and TrustStore, the obfuscated password, and the type. Since KeyStore and TrustStore are the same file, the same information applies. We edit the file. We make the changes as indicated in the presentation slide. The WebSwing properties file contains WebSocket settings. It's found in the config directory. We uncomment the three WebSocket TrustStore lines and specify the TrustStore file, as well as the obfuscated passwords. Since our certificate is self-signed, another line needs to be uncommented, the certificate verification, so that disabled is set to true. Finally, we restart WebSwing. We edit the file. We uncomment these three lines and set the appropriate values. The certificate is self-signed, so we uncomment the line that disables the certificate verification process. Finally, we restart the web server. We can now connect to the config tool over HTTPS. We enter the URL with a new port. The certificate is self-signed, so naturally we get a warning from Firefox.